Hey guys, welcome back into the video. So, we got some new Cyberpunk 2 details courtesy of CPR's newest financial investors report. Since Mateo on X decided to kind of put a highlight, so shout out to him. If you wanted to see the original tweet, that would kind of give his opinion on everything. I'll have a link to it down in the description below. This was, by the time of this recording, a few days ago, so let's talk about it. So, here's what the highlights were. Here's what we learned today from CDPR's newest financial report. Cyberpunk 2 will not release before 2028. It probably will be between 2029 and 2031 maybe, so we still got a long time before this new Cyberpunk game releases, so it's gonna be quite a while. 135 new employees are now working on Cyberpunk 2 full-time. This is up from 116 employees back in July, and back in July I believe was when the game exited the concept phase. Is now in pre-production, so obviously the full focus of CPR at the moment is Witcher 4. I would not be surprised. I think that's going to be 2027 to 2028, which it's fully focused on. That's going to be a current gen game, while I think this new Cyberpunk game, it's going to be a next generation game. It might be cross gen though, but they might not, because it would kind of almost be a repeat of what happened with Cyberpunk 2077, but I think they learned their lesson, hopefully, from that. But anyways, Cyberpunk 2 is a joint project between their Poland and Boston teams, but the new Boston team is heavily leading this project. CPR Boston is expected to massively ramp up hiring next year in 2027. The development team is expected to scale massively by the end of 2027 with about 300 to 400 employees across both Poland and Boston. Cyberpunk 2077 has now sold 35 million copies. It is also the main source of revenue for CDPR right now, so it's definitely selling better than what Witcher 3 did, when that post-release from that game. In case you missed it, Cyberpunk 2 is going to have a new city inspired by Chicago gone wrong, and it is expected that Night City will also be making a return as well. I can't remember the name of it, but it's been theorized that there's actually some kind of location that CPR might be going with for Cyberpunk 2, where it has encompass multiple cities within America in the Cyberpunk world. I think it goes from Chicago all the way up to Washington. If that's the case, that's a massive area, and it could make sense for them encompassing, I guess, the whole game world of Cyberpunk 2. And it's also expected that Night City would be making a return. I mean, that kind of makes sense, because this has been proposed to be a direct sequel to Cyberpunk 2077, whatever this new game is going to be called. We'll just call it 2078 for now, until CDPR officially announces what the actual name of this game is. Well, who knows when that will be. Now, regarding my official thoughts on the news, I mean, it makes sense. Kind of makes sense that this game isn't going to be coming for a long time, because again, this game is still in pre-production, and they only have 136 people working full time on this project, while the majority of CPR is mainly focused on Witcher 4, because that just entered full production not too long ago. And the CEO of CPR, he actually said, he clarified in a later statement that they aren't going to be showing anything at the Game Awards next month. I mean, that kind of makes sense. They kind of officially teased Witcher 4 last year, so if people were kind of expecting them to show more at the Game Awards, clearly they're not ready. And unlike what happened with Cyberpunk, take your time, kind of make sure you get it right, because people are not going to fully trust you again after what happened with Cyberpunk 2077. I mean, do we really need to talk about that? The many failures that they went through when Cyberpunk first released back in 2020. Look, in hindsight, yeah, they probably shouldn't have released it on the last gen consoles. So, but then again, it was coming around the same time that the new system was just out, and they didn't even have an official version for that game out for the new system, so they kind of had to. But whatever the case may be, I just kind of hope they learned their lesson. Now, when do I think this game would be coming out? Hard to say. It's probably gonna be the 2030s, probably. I'm gonna guess, maybe 2031, maybe, or 2030. I don't know, because if Witcher 4 is 2027 to 2028, which that's gonna be a current gen game, or cross gen at the very least, because the rumors were saying that the next gen consoles are out in 2027, so maybe Witcher 4 is a launch title for that. Also being on the PS5 and the Series X and S consoles, which would make sense. But again, I guess time will tell what's going to happen long term. I guess it's going to be a long time before we hear anything really about Cyberpunk 2. It's never going to be a bit because Witcher 4, they got to get Witcher 4 out the door, and that's obviously their main focus. So, again, I do think 2027 to 2020 makes sense for Witcher 4, which we all know that's in full production, so CDPR is heavily focused on that right now. Heck, they showed it off technically last year, and they did like a tech demo with Unreal Engine 5 back in like June, I think, where apparently like they kind of were emphasizing to say that, hey, it's, you know, not the actual game, it's just a vertical slice pretty much, not the actual game. So they kind of already learned from the 2018 thing with Cyberpunk, you know, that infamous E3 demo. So they kind of learned their lesson, basically kind of say, hey, this is not indicative of what the final game of Witcher 4 is going to be. So they definitely learned their lesson. So now, what will be the truly tested learned lesson is when the game actually releases, because not just Cyberpunk, but I believe Witcher 3 had issues too when that first released. But I don't think they had the same backlash as they did with Cyberpunk. I mean, Cyberpunk was way worse, I would say. Then again, I wasn't really around. I didn't really pay attention to like Witcher 3 when that was first coming out. So I didn't play Witcher 3 till like a couple years later after all the DLC was out. But obviously, I was at the launch of Cyberpunk, and we all know how that went. But other than that, though, that's really all the news that we got from CDPR on Cyberpunk 2. But other than that, though, yeah. So it's gonna be a long time before we see this game. So it's gonna be a while. But whenever we see big news on Cyberpunk 2, I'll definitely be covering. So subscribe to the channel as we cover not just Cyberpunk 2, but other games on the channel I'm really interested in. And I hope you all join for the ride. So next video, I'm probably going to be talking about either the Game Awards predictions or what games, or there is a little fan remake that I've actually been checking out, which I've been excited for a long time. For a Time Spurs fan, you kind of know what I'm referring to. So stay tuned for the next video, and I'll see you on the next one. Till then, have a good one.